soon and very soon. I said soon and very soon, 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 and very soon. I said soon and very soon, 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 very soon. I said soon and very soon, 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 very soon. I said soon and very soon, singing hallelujah, hallelujah. We're going to see that no more crying there. I said no more crying there. No, 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 no more crying there. I said no more crying there. No, 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 no more crying there. I said no more crying there. No, 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 no more crying there. I said no more crying there. Singing hallelujah, hallelujah. We're going to see that no more dying there. I said no more dying there. No, 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 no more dying there. I said no more dying there. No, 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 no more dying there. I said no more dying there. No, 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 no more dying there. I said no more dying there. Singing hallelujah, hallelujah. We're going to see that soon and very soon. I said soon and very soon. Yeah. $5.45. I would ask that you try to keep up also with the songs, as Doug invited you to do with the readings. Particularly the group of three on the right-hand side, we're going to sing them one after another a little later on. And this time I invite you to stand for this song. You can see it afterward. This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. They're all expecting me, and that's one thing I know. My Savior's pardoned me, and now I undergo. I know He'll take me through, though I am weak and poor, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. I have a loving Savior up in glory land. I don't expect to stop until I with Him stand. He's waiting now for me in heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven is not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Just up in glory land we'll live eternally. The saints on every hand are shouting victory. Their song is sweet as praise drifts back from heaven's shore, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore.
I fought a good fight. I have finished the race. Kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for His appearing. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life.
to Canaan's land. I'm on my way where the soul will never die. My darkest night will turn to day where the soul of man never dies. No sadness, no farewells, there'll be no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is peace and joy, and the soul of man never dies. A rose is blooming there for me where the soul of man never dies, and I will spend eternity where the soul of man never dies. No sad, no farewells, no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is peace and joy, and the soul of man never dies. A love light beams across the foam where the soul of man never dies. It shines to light the shores of home where the soul of man never dies. No sad, no farewells, no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is peace and joy, and the soul of man never dies. My life will end in deathless sleep where the soul of man never dies, and everlasting joys I'll reap where the soul of man never dies. No sad farewells, no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is peace and joy, and the soul of man never dies. I'm on my way to that fair land where the soul of man never dies, where there will be no parting hand, and the soul of man never dies. No sad farewells, no tear-dimmed eyes, where all is peace and joy, and the soul of man never dies. Sing to me of heaven, sing the song of peace. From the toils that bind me, it will bring release. Burdens will be lifted that are pressing so. Showers of great blessing o'er my heart will flow. Sing to me of heaven, let me fondly dream of its golden glory, of its earthly gleam. Sing to me when the shadows of the evening fall. Sing to me of heaven, sing the song of all. Sing to me of heaven as I walk alone, dreaming of the comrades that so long have gone. In a fairer region among the angel throng, they are happy as they sing that old sweet song. Sing to me of heaven, let me fondly dream of its golden glory, of its pearly gleam. Sing to me when the shadows of the evening fall. Sing to me of heaven, sing the song of all. Sing to me of heaven tenderly and low, till the shadows of me rise and swiftly go. When my heart is weary, when the day is long, sing to me of heaven, sing that old sweet song. Sing to me of heaven, let me fondly dream of its golden glory, of its pearly gleam. Sing to me when the shadows of the evening fall. Sing to me of heaven, sing the song of all.
Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from down the middle of the great street of the city. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and of the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads, and there will be no night. They will not need the light of the lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will be their light. And they will reign forever and ever. And the angel said to me, these words are trustworthy and true. The Lord, the God of the spirits of the prophets, sent his angel to show his servants the things that must soon take place.
There is a habitation built by the living God for all of every nation who seek that grand abode. O Zion, Zion, I long thy gates to see. O Zion, Zion, when shall I dwell in thee? A city with foundation, firm as the eternal throne. No wars, no desolations shall ever move us so. O Zion, Zion, I long thy gates to see. O Zion, Zion, when shall I dwell in thee? No night is there, no sorrow, no death and no decay, no yesterday, no morrow, but one eternal day. O Zion, Zion, I long thy gates to see. O Zion, Zion, when shall I dwell in thee? Within its pearly portals, angelic harmonies sing, with glorified immortals, the praises of its King. O Zion, Zion, I long thy gates to see. O Zion, Zion, when shall I dwell in thee? Come glad morning, when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shore, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. On the bright cloud this morning, when the dead in Christ shall rise, and the glory of his resurrection share, when his chosen ones shall gather from their home beyond the sky, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Let us labor for the Master from the dawn till setting sun. Let us talk of all his wondrous love and care. Then when all of life is over and our work on earth is done, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all say Jesus, we'll sing and shout victory. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow of a sign. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all say Jesus, we'll sing and shout of victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of him in glory will the toil like pray. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all say Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
We prepare around the Lord's table this morning. There's a couple of thoughts I'd like to bring to you. I think all of us are always thinking toward the future, wondering what lies ahead, what decisions we make, and how they'll affect how things turn out, just how things are going to be. And we're no different than what Jesus' disciples were. I want to read to you from Luke chapter 21. And what's happened previous to this is they've been in the temple, and the disciples have been admiring some of the beautiful things in the temple, and then Jesus tells them that before long this temple is going to be torn down. There won't be a stone upon a stone. And then he goes on to tell them and to warn them about things that are coming. We'll start with verse 14. But make up your minds not to worry beforehand how you will defend yourselves. For I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. All men will hate you because of it, but not a hair of your heads will perish. By standing firm, you will gain life. He's not promising them that their life is going to go smoothly and nothing will ever bad will ever happen to them. But he does promise them some reassurance. He promises that he will be with them, that his Spirit will be with them. And that's exactly the same promise he's given us. Not all our lives are going to go smoothly. Not everything's going to go the way we think it ought to go. But he has left his spirit. He has left us wisdom and words that gives direction. I'd like you to think about that this morning. All those things were made possible because of his sacrifice. We can have the hope of heaven. Have the hope of eternal life that lays ahead of us. Father in heaven, we ask that you be with us this morning. You help us to consider the things that you've given to us. You would help us to consider the future that lay ahead of us. That you would help us to take hope, put our trust in your Spirit. God, we pray that you would bless the bread now as we partake of it. Help each of us to consider Christ's sacrifice in everything. In Jesus' name, amen. We're going to be playing a tape this morning while we pass the inlet. We'd like to give the words to the thought and came as present. that. Help us live our lives in response to that. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name. I've mentioned this several times before. As I was a young child growing up in the church, this was sort of the highlight of the morning when we got to take collection, because collection was part of the service that I was able to be involved in, and I was able to do something. Somewhere as I grew older, I lost sight of that. Collection wasn't the highlight of the morning. Collection shouldn't be the highlight of our morning, but it should be something that we had thought about, that we considered. We have made plans long before we got here. This is what we were going to get. But while we're doing it, the children are here, we can allow them to sort of look at this as the opportunity to participate. And I encourage all of you to look at it the same way.
I'm satisfied with just a cottage below, a little silver and a little gold. But in that city where the grasses will shine, I want a gold one, that silver line. I've got a mansion just over the hilltop, in that bright land where we live roll. And someday yonder we'll never more wander, but walk the streets that are purest gold. Though often tempted, tormented and tested, and like the prophet my pillow was sold. And though I find here no permanent dwelling, I know He'll give me a mansion my own. I've got a mansion just over the hilltop, in that bright land where we'll never grow old. And someday yonder we'll never more wander, but walk the streets that are purest gold. Don't think me poor or deserted or lonely, I'm not discouraged, I'm heaven bound. I'm just a pilgrim in search of a city. I want a mansion, a robe and a crown. I've got a mansion just over the hilltop, in that bright land where we'll never grow old. And someday yonder we'll never more wander, but walk the streets that are purest gold.
Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. And where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Now the dwelling of God is with men, and He will live with them. They will be His people. And God Himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away." He who was seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." The wall was made of jasper, and the city of pure gold, as pure as glass. The city does not need the sun, or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it its light. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life.
There are a few things that I'm excited about that I'd like to remind you of. And the first is that if you weren't here last Sunday, Bernard announced that we are going to go ahead with the counseling ministry, and David will become a counselor working from the church. And in my mind, this is a tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential, tremendous opportunity to serve. And as I've got to know people in the community and got to know you and got to know some of the pastors in town, everyone is positive. Everyone's excited that this is really an opportunity to both reach out and heal amongst us and also amongst the community. And so we are going to hopefully put David, I don't know what the word would be, invocate or convocate or one of those words, in September when he gets back. Between now and then, what we would like you to do is to give us some feedback, to give us some response. I think it's important that we approach this ministry with excitement as a body and make it a body effort. And so you can talk to Bernard or I, And, or if you would rather not do that, there's a box at the back that you could ask any questions, have any comments, any kind of response to what is taking place. And I hope that you do that. Second thing I'm excited about is an opportunity that we have in October. October 14th to 16th, Lynn Anderson is going to be speaking in Edmonton. And he is going to bring his music minister with him and speak about worship and the holiness of God. And on the back there's a poster in regards to that. Some people here I know are intending to go. In my mind, Lynn has offers to us some of the best insights into the future, some best insights into worship that we can get within our fellowship. And I don't think that there will be a better opportunity for us to be a part of that than to go down to Edmonton. And hopefully I will be able to taking a vehicle. For those of you who aren't into flying, you can brave the drive with Rebecca and I. And that's on October 14th to 16th. So you'll see it in the bulletin and you can look at the poster, but I want to put it in your ear. This morning is encouraging to me to sing about heaven, to talk about heaven, to think about our future, to think about where we're going to end up. And as I was thinking about this morning, I was reading the other morning in 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians, I hadn't really read a lot in before. I'd done some studying. But I saw a verse in there that sort of caught my attention, that I think sort of sums up what we're doing here this morning. Paul's writing and he's telling these people about the second coming of Christ. And he says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel and with the trumpet call of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever." And then notice verse 18 of chapter 4, Paul's exhortation to these Thessalonians. He says, "Therefore, encourage each other with these words." I hope that's what we've done this morning. Encouraged you with words about heaven, with words about living with God forever. If you look at the number of epistles that were written with exhortations about the future, the theme that comes over and over again is that the Lord is coming, we're going to be in heaven, you need to be encouraged. And so when Peter writes his epistles, that's what he says. He says, remember heaven. And that's how he encourages them. So hopefully this morning, that's what we're doing. And I want to go to God and praise him for that right now. Father, this morning we praise you for heaven. We praise you for the fact that we have hope, that life doesn't end for us in the grave. And Father, we know that it was because of your mercy, because of your grace that you sent your Son, and that through him we have a hope of an eternal home with you. Father, may we be motivated. May we catch a glimpse of that home this morning. And may that push us further through our journey so that we can remember that this isn't where we are meant to be, that we are meant to be with you. In Jesus' precious name. 13 years ago, I had perhaps the toughest summer that I have ever experienced. And the reason was because my family was moving from the farm to the city. My parents had decided that Dad was going to become a preacher and that we were going to move. And to me, this was the worst thing that they could possibly say. I had grown up on the farm. I loved the farm. I loved the animals. I loved the tractors. I loved the space. I loved everything about the farm. I didn't like anything about the city. And so for Dad and Mom to say, we're leaving, it really hurt. And I remember crying and screaming and hollering, and I was upset. And I would get mad and not talk to anyone. And Mom and Dad they didn't know what to do with me, I don't think. But I figured, maybe if I complain enough, they'll change their mind. Well, Dad did something that I think was wise, and that is that he allowed me to stay on the farm after the family moved. And after the family moved to Regina, he said, okay, Steve, you can stay on the farm for a few months and help farm and help Grandpa take care of the farm. I thought that was great. I thought maybe if I did a good enough job, I could just stay there. Well, the summer went by, and one of the things that they suggested to me was that maybe I should go with my grandpa and my Uncle Dave to Ontario. Uncle Dave was moving to Ontario. And they said, well, Steve, maybe to help you get over this transition, if you go with your grandfather in the truck, you'll be able to experience some of life and have a good time, and things will be encouraged for you. So we loaded up our Uncle Dave's belongings in his truck. We loaded up everything that he had in an old pickup and a horse trailer. And Grandpa and I got in the old pickup, and Uncle Dave got in the K car in front of us. And we had a real entourage and headed 30 hours towards Beamsville, Ontario, moving my uncle and aunt. Well, it was a good trip. It was exciting. We had CBs hooked up between the truck and the K car, and so we could talk back and forth, and we could talk to truckers who were driving by, and we could communicate with all of these people that were new to me. And so we had a great time telling jokes and trying to sing songs across the CB. My cousins were younger than I were, and they had a little more influence with Grandpa, and if they wanted to stop for ice cream, Grandpa would certainly stop for ice cream. And I had comic books, and I had books spread out in the truck, and I would read them, and Grandpa would tell me stories, and I saw a new country, and it was a great time. And I thought to myself, by the time we got to Beamsville, you know, maybe the road's the life for me. Maybe instead of moving to the city, I can just join somebody and drive in the truck for a while. Well, we got there and unloaded his stuff and then turned around. On the way back, it was a whole different story. We got about halfway back, and I started to notice some things. I noticed some things about the weather. It wasn't that nice. It wasn't that thrilling to look outside of windows all of the time. And I started to notice some things about Grandpa's driving that I didn't like either. I was sick of people honking at us. I was sick of telling him to turn off the blinker as we went down the highway. My comic books, I'd read them all. We didn't have the CBs. Grandpa didn't want to stop for ice cream near as much. And I started to notice some things about the truck as well. The truck made a lot of noise. And the truck wasn't that comfortable to sit in. And the seat got hard. I looked over at Grandpa, and Grandpa started telling me stories, and I'd heard them before. They were repeats. And I was really getting sick of this. Finally, Grandpa, about 10 hours from home, Grandpa said to me, all right, what's the matter with you? What do you need? What do you want me to do? I said, don't do anything. I said, I just want to go home. So, we went home. Going home. Rebecca and I have been without a home for the last couple months, and we're eagerly awaiting September, as are Bill and Wendy for their grad, to get to a place that we can call home. There's something about home, having your own chair to sit in, having your own bed to sleep in, to walk into your own place and feel the smell of your own home and know that you're where you should be. Know that your family loves you there. To know that there are people there that care for you. Friendly faces. There's something about home that is special, that feels right, that smells right. There's something about home that makes it a place you want to go to. A couple years ago, I directed a week at camp. And this was a new experience for me, and I wasn't very old. And they'd given me the honor of directing grades 2 to 4. And we had about 50 kids at grades 2 to 4 at Clearview Christian Camp. And I was the director, and so immediately I grabbed my mom to help me. And we had quite a week. But there was one fellow, and you teachers know that in each group there's at least one of these type of people. He was a real terror. He had more energy than I knew what to do with. And he had, I would say, an evil streak in him. He was just a rotten kid. Monday and Tuesday went by. I disciplined him several times. Wednesday, about halfway through the day, he stopped talking. And he went and sat down by a tree, and he wouldn't do anything. And I got quite upset. I thought, what am I going to do with this kid? So I walked over to him, and he'd been there for several hours, lonely as all get out. And I said, you know, what's the matter? And I wanted to be a good counselor, and I wanted to be a good director. And I said, what can I do? He says, well, camp's fun, he says, but I'd rather go home. He said, I said, well, great, here's my first case of homesickness. And I was eager to let him go. But I thought maybe I better hang on to him. So I said, tell me about your home. Tell me what's at home that's so special. So he started talking about his house, and he talked about his room, and he talked about the decorations, and his hockey sheets, and the hockey pillows. And he talked about the things that were in his living room. He talked about his TV shows. He talked about his Nintendo. He talked about his sister. He talked about his mom and dad. And as he was talking, he got talking faster and faster, and he stood up, and about halfway through a sentence, he just walked away and started playing again. I thought to myself, what on earth is going on? And then I realized that sometimes the only thing that it takes to get us through our journey is to get a clear vision of what our home is like. Sometimes getting in our minds, remembering what home is like, is enough to get us through the tough times. This morning I'd like to take you to the words written by an old man. A man about 90 years old. He's a Christian, and he loves the Lord, but life has been hard on this man. His body is wrinkled and weary. His journey through life has taken his toll on his senses and on who he is. Most of his family are gone. Most of his friends are dead. He's known the power of Christ, and he's experienced Jesus in his life, but it seemed like it was a long time ago. Maybe you know somebody like that. This old man knows that he won't be around earth much longer. He knows that he's not going to be here forever. And yet it is to this old man that God gives a vision. God gives a glimpse. It's as if God opens up the curtain and says, "Here, take a look, John, and see what heaven is like." And so the old man, you can almost see his eyes light up as he sees this picture that God has given him. And he rapidly tries to write down all of these things that he sees. And he tries to put into words the beauty of our heavenly home. And so we have the book of Revelation. We have the book, the chapter 21 of Revelation. And let's look at the first 5 verses. Here's old John getting a glimpse of the homeland just before he goes there. And this is how he describes it. Chapter 21, the first 2 verses. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven like a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. The new Jerusalem. The place for us that doesn't mean a lot, but to everyone reading this, Jerusalem was the place where God inhabited the people. This is where God existed. This was the hub of where God was active in the world. John says there's a new Jerusalem, a holy city. And guess how he describes it? As a bride prepared beautifully for her husband. Could you imagine the task of this old man? Trying to put into words the beauty of heaven. I think he picks a pretty good parallel. He picks the parallel of a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. I have seen several brides and been part of several weddings, and it never fails that when the bride comes down the aisle, she is always beautiful. Sometimes the grooms are not, but the brides are always beautiful. There's something about a bride on her wedding day, something that makes the youngest kids smile, and it makes the older people bring a tear to their eyes. It makes them stand up. Let me tell you about the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen. It occurred in a church similar to this. A building like this with people like this. There was probably more people than there are this morning. And I was standing up at the front, dressed, well, I was looking as good as I can look. I mean, I was dressed to the hilt. I had spent some time on myself. And I was standing in front of this group of people, and I was more nervous than I have ever been in my life. And my knees were really going. And my mouth was dry, and I couldn't say a word if I'd wanted to. And all of a sudden, the people stood up, and symphony music came through the sound system and filled the whole room. And everyone turned around and looked to the back, and around the corner came the most beautiful thing that I've seen. As Rebecca came around the corner and walked towards me to be my wife, and I thought to myself, it doesn't get any better than this. John's given the task of putting into words heaven. And this is the picture that he gives us. Brides are beautiful for a lot of reasons. They give their best of themselves on that day. They put a lot of effort into it. Those of you who are brides know this. Some of the husbands might know that there's a lot of preparations that goes into the way that you look that morning. There's a lot of work that takes place. And so when you think about a bride beautifully dressed for her husband and realize that the same God that created the heavens, that created the earth, that created all of this beauty, is going to do His very best to make a place beautiful. Imagine what it's going to be like. I don't think that the world that you woke up to this morning could be described as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband, could it? I don't know what your morning was like, but I know what the world is like. And so this morning I ran over to the shell down here and grabbed a paper. Just moments before church started, I ripped out a couple of headings. Covered in blood. A well-known basketball coach and his wife were stabbed Friday, and their 30-year-old son later committed suicide. He kills his parents, and then commits suicide. You know, I could go on and on. Man jailed for sexually preying on his stepdaughter. Woman who assaulted husband gets probation. Entertainment, the front page of yesterday's entertainment paper from Edmonton. Natural-born killers. Studio's nervous about a film where killers become media stars, and Oliver Stone and the rest of the media says killers are the hottest media draws in town. When you think of the divorce, when you think of the pain, when you think of the blood, when you realize the frustration of this world, and you compare it, on the other hand, to a bride beautifully dressed for her husband, doesn't that make you want to go home? Well, John goes on. He goes on in chapter 21 and he says, "And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Now the dwelling of God is with men, and He will live with them, and they will be His people. And God Himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.'" When you were a kid, who wiped your tears? Who was the person that took the tears away? John is saying here that when we get home, God will wipe our tears away forever. The same hands that formed the heavens, the same hands that formed the earth, the same hands that created this world around us, the same hands that were nailed on the cross, are the hands that will wipe the tears from your eyes forever. That makes me want to go home. He goes on to say that there will be no more mourning, no more crying, no more pain, no more death. Could you imagine a world like that? Can you imagine a place where there are no more Band-Aids? There is no more blood. There are no more caskets, no more funerals. There are no more goodbyes. When you think of a place like that, does that make you want to go home? John goes on. He says in verse 5, "He who is seated on the throne said, 'I am making everything new.'" There are a lot of times that I have wished that I could make things new. Sometimes little things. I've had several cars that I wish were new. I have a bad ankle that bothers me sometimes, and I wish that I could make it new. My back acts up, and I wish that I could make it new. I would like to restore things to their former beauty, to their former effectiveness. Sometimes I go back to the farm, and I go back to the farm and I look at the buildings, and I look at the barn, and I look at the house, and I remember what it used to be like, and I wish that I could make it new. And then I look at my grandparents, I look at my grandpa, and I look at my grandma, and I see the wrinkles, and they can't hear quite as well, and their eyesight's going, and they're not quite as with it as they used to be. And I wish that I could make them new again. I think about my friends, I think about your friends that have cancer, your friends that are dying, and I wish with all of my heart that I could just reach out to them and make their bodies new again. I can't. But God can. And God will. And He won't just camouflage it. He won't cover it up and put on some paint so you can't see what's underneath. He won't cover it up so that there's a mask in front of it. He won't put something over it. He'll restore it to the way that it's supposed to be. He'll make it new. When you think of a place where things will be made new, doesn't that make you want to go home? There's something special about going home. Home is where you and I are meant to be. And it's where we're going. It's not a city. It's not the farm. It's not even a new address in town. Home is where our hearts are meant to be. A home prepared by God. For some of us, for some of you, the journey gets pretty long. And there are days when you would rather put God off somewhere for a while and just leave Him there. There are days when you need a vision like the one that John got. A vision of our home. A vision of where you are going. A home as beautiful as a bride. A place where God and man live the way they should. Together. Where every tear will be dried. Where there will be no more pain, no more death, no more goodbyes. Where everything will be made new. Doesn't that make you want to go home? Let's stand and sing.
Walking alone at eve and viewing the skies afar, bidding the darkness come to welcome each silver star. I have a great delight in the wonderful scenes of love. God in His power and might is showing His truth and love. Oh, for a home with God, a place in His courts to rest, sure in a safe abode with Jesus and the blessed. Rest for a weary soul, once redeemed by the Savior's love, where I'll be pure and whole and live with my God above. Sitting alone at eve and dreaming the hours away, watching the shadows falling now at the close of day. God in His mercy comes with His word He is drawing near, spreading His love and truth around me and everywhere. Oh, for a home with God, a place in His courts to rest, sure in a safe abode with Jesus and the blessed. Rest for a weary soul, once redeemed by the Savior's love, where I'll be pure and whole and live with my God above. Closing my eyes at eve and thinking of heaven's grace, longing to see my Lord, yes, meeting Him face to face, trusting Him as my all, wheresoever my footsteps roam, pleading with Him to guide me unto the Spirit's home. Oh, for a home with God, a place in His courts to rest, sure in a safe abode with Jesus and the blessed. Rest for a weary soul, once redeemed by the Savior's love, where I'll be pure and whole and live with my God above.
Thank you, Steve. There's lots of times we need to remember to sort of refocus, rethink of where we're headed. And I think we've done that very well this morning. There are a couple of things that we want to make mention of, in particular this morning. I wonder if Benji here can say it. Okay, we can both turn around and wave.